The increase in hate crimes and the killings of members of the LGBTIQ+ community is growing at an alarming rate. The latest alleged hate crime was the killing of Motse Moeketsi on Wednesday. Moeketsi was stabbed to death and set alight. In April of 2018, the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and the Hate Speech Bill was introduced to Parliament and revived in October of 2019, but it has not yet been implemented. Members of civil society and the LGBTIQA+ community want to know why. To tell us more about what the bill is supposed to do and why it has not yet been fully realized is Deputy Minister of Justice John Jeffery. Deputy Minister, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Weekend Report. Bodies are piling up as the hate crimes bill gathers dust in Parliament. What's the delay, and what really is the cause of no implementation, even as we see more and more people being victims of hate crimes?
Good morning, Mpon. Good morning to the viewers. Let me just say that the recently increased numbers of murders of particularly lesbian, gay, transgender people is of great concern. We are tracking those cases to ensure that they are properly investigated. There's a rapid response team of the National Task Team on Violence Against LGBTI People, which met this past week, and there will then be further meetings with the law enforcement agencies on some of the cases. But the murders are of extreme concern. With regard to the hate crimes, hate speech bill, the problem is that, well, firstly, let me just tell you what it does. It elevates existing crimes that are committed through a motive of disliking the group that the person belongs to or is perceived to belong to, that if that's a motive or part of the motive for committing the crime, then it becomes a hate crime. But they're already crimes. So, for example, murder is murder. It's already a serious crime. Where the bill will help things is the less serious crimes and assault, things like that, will get elevated into a hate crime to become more serious. Then there's a hate speech provision, which criminalizes hate speech. That is new law. Then there's some other provisions which do really apply in our law already, but this would make the mandatory a victim impact statement for sentencing, those kinds of things. The problem with the bill is that there's disputes on the hate speech provision as to what are the limits of free speech. There are two cases awaiting judgment before the Constitutional Court on this issue. And the bill is with Parliament, not with the executive, but I can understand the problem that Parliament is facing. That is, you can try and process the bill, have endless debates, deliberations on what is permissible, what isn't permissible in the law, get legal opinions, for example. But the court is hopefully shortly going to rule on what is and what isn't. So it is better for them to wait for that outcome. So it's not gathering dust. That's the problem. I would also say that what's important with these cases is that they're investigated, that the perpetrators are prosecuted, and that they're given hefty sentences for the crimes that they've committed.
You've mentioned elements of what the bill essentially entails, and this is a bill that many within the LGBTQI+ community, civil society groups and so forth are hoping that it will, in essence, offer better protection. How much of a difference do you believe that this bill will indeed make in the day-to-day lives of those who continue to fall victim?
Look, I think, unfortunately, it's being seen in some quarters as the magic switch that will end violence against people of different sexual orientation, gender identity. It will make a difference, but already, as I said, a rape, murder are serious crimes. And what needs to happen with these cases that have been going on is they need to be investigated. People need to be prosecuted. Where it will be important is that it will elevate the less serious crimes into hate crimes and make them more serious. It will then set out a criminal crime of hate speech, which people can be prosecuted for, and then it will also help with the recording of hate crimes. That the police will have to, and the prosecution will have to develop systems to record how many crimes are actually taking place. There is also a section on prevention, and that is a key point, but the key issue with prevention is tackling homophobia and understanding what's causing it in a particular instance, because these cases are not linked. They seem to be largely committed by local perpetrators. So we also need to be understanding what's driving it, what's given rise to the sudden outburst.
Are there any clues as to why we're seeing this increase?
Not that I'm aware of offhand. We have asked for a report on each case to try and evaluate that. Each case, as I said, so far seems to be linked to a local situation. It's definitely not an orchestrated campaign that's being planned centrally across the country. But why it's happening now, that's something we've got to establish. But the key thing, obviously, is to ensure the persons who committed the crimes must be held accountable.
When we looked at gender-based violence and the manner in which the victims were able to report the crimes, there was a lot of criticism and perhaps the victims feeling like they don't have a safe space at police stations to speak about these crimes. You know, we've heard instances of women being told to turn back. We have heard the stance of Police Minister Bheki when it comes to police and dealing with gender-based violence. Do you believe that the manner in which these crimes will be reported of the LGBTIQA+ community, do you believe that there is the right platforms and perhaps training for police officers to handle these cases so justice can essentially be served?
Yeah, look, our laws are implemented by people, human beings who have their own problems. So even though gender-based violence is a major national priority, tackling gender-based violence is a major national priority, you will still find some individual police people who are blasé about it, or even prosecutors or whatever. But what's important is to, so you will have those problems. There is training going on both for gender-based violence and for these crimes against LGBTI people with the police. What is important is where there are problems with a particular individual who is maybe showing signs of homophobia, that is picked up and that is dealt with. The whole purpose of a rapid response team, a national rapid response team, tracking all the cases, is to check, are there unnecessary delays in an investigation? Could it be from other factors, or could it be from homophobia on the part of the investigating officers? And if it is, or whatever the problems are, to basically tackle them and ensure that the investigations are properly done.
Where's the missing link? If we really have to look at communities and social cohesion, what would you say, Deputy Minister, is essentially the missing link here when it comes to an understanding and acceptance of those of a different sexual orientation?
Look, generally from surveys, the attitude of the South African public to people of different sexual orientation, gender identity, sex characteristics is improving. I think it's a majority of, in one of the more recent surveys a few years ago, a clear majority supported equal rights for lesbian, gay, transgender, etc. people. So that is improving. However, there's obviously still sections of the population that are homophobic. That could be from, and most of them are men, in terms of probably concerns over their own sexuality or whatever. There would be it from often a traditional perspective of what is it to be a man, and a man is not meant to be in love with another man. It could be from a religious perspective. There are certain people who interpret the Bible or particularly focus on issues, prohibitions on gay sex in the Bible. So it could be issues related to that. So those are all issues to address. But we've got to really target the areas where there are problems. I suspect it would be particularly with younger people, younger men, engaging with them on issues of masculinity and the right for people to be who they want to be and to love who they want to love.
Absolutely. Where are we standing when it comes to timeframes for the implementation of the bill?
Well, we're waiting for the Constitutional Court judgments in two cases, the Motse case, which dealt with allegations of anti-Semitism, and the Kwelane case, which was on homophobia. So as soon as those judgments come out, Parliament can then proceed with the bill, because the issues, the uncertainty in the areas of the law as to what is constitutionally permissible and what is not permissible would have been resolved. So the moment that the judgment comes out, I'm sure Parliament will proceed with the bill with haste.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. Leaving it there, Deputy Minister of Justice John Jeffery speaking about the increase in hate crimes when it comes to members of the LGBTQI+ community.